Next up this evening, we have Robin Sertell, a survivor and a thriver. Robin is the author of Miracles Happen in the Wilderness, an autobiographical snapshot into the goodness of God in her life. She has survived 3 abortion attempts via saline infusion. Her life's message is one of forgiveness and hope restored. She is an ordained pastor and currently serves as an education coordinator for the Abortion Survivors Network. Her life is a walking testimony of Genesis 50:20. You intend harm to me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. We welcome Robin.
Thank you. How many of you have ever felt like you don't fit in? Any of you ever felt like you don't belong, shouldn't be here? Well, guess what? Those of you who have raised your hands, you can relate to what it feels like to be an abortion survivor. The normal warm welcome that babies are brought into this world amidst, it's missing for us. We're a lot of times the oops that nobody wants to talk about. No nursery is prepared for us. No names are picked out. No layette. There's literally no place for us. Because of that, we start out life with an underlying sense that we don't belong. It feels a little like somebody literally hired a hitman to take you out before you were born. That legal part is a bugger, isn't it? I mean, we're talking about killing babies, and we can't even call it murder because that's a legal term. Think about that. My story began when my parents were facing those legalities themselves, just like most abortion survivors. You see, there is no federal law that mandates care for babies after an abortion attempt. To date, only a handful of states have those laws on the books. Thank you, Texas, for being one of them. So if a baby is born alive after an attempted abortion, the decision is largely left to those in the room. Who wants to make that call? For many abortion survivors, that call is made by the abortionist, and the baby is laid aside, set on a cold steel table, or put in a medical waste bin. In my case, praise God, that call went to my father. You see, my parents were married and had a fairly stable home environment, or as stable as 2 school teachers could muster, if you consider that one of them had some serious mental illnesses. That one would be my mom. And her particular brand of illnesses prevented her from having the ability to actually connect with me or other people. She was completely unable to feel empathy. So, when she became pregnant, she saw me as more of a list of chores and responsibilities, a never-ending batch of things she didn't want to do, and decided, that's not for me. So, at that point, she tried not once, not twice, but 3 times to have me aborted by a saline infusion. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with that procedure, in a saline infusion abortion, a deep needle is inserted into the mother's womb through the tummy. And that life-giving amniotic fluid, some of it is drawn out, and then injected into the womb is a toxic, salty solution that is designed to burn the baby, scald them, and kill them. Apparently, I was a little bit more stubborn than that deadly solution. Maybe 3 times more stubborn. After the 3rd attempt, my mother did not know I was still alive. So, one morning in late March of 1974, my dad took my mother to Methodist Hospital on Broad Street in Philadelphia, expecting that she was going to expel a dead baby. There was no bag packed for me. There was no name picked out for me. No excited grandparents waiting eagerly for a phone call at home. None of that. And much to their surprise, I was born alive. Can we keep her? Can we keep her? My dad asked, much like you would if you were bringing home a puppy and hoping that the rest of your family would agree to keeping the puppy. My mother relented. Seeing a bird on the window ledge that morning, she looked at that little bird and said, "Fine, call it Robin Dawn." That's my name. The gift of life I've been given that morning was not devoid of challenges. You see, much of my childhood was spent dealing with the after effects of all those abortion attempts. Children's Hospital of Philadelphia became my home away from home as doctors really tried to figure out what is wrong with this little girl and tried to deal with all of the symptoms and the illnesses that I had from the saline and the abortion attempts. Effects on my psyche were myriad as well. See, I also had a recurring nightmare. As you've heard Kim share, she had hers. Well, mine was a saline infusion abortion attempt, 3 of them. And in my nightmare, I saw a faucet. It was dark in my dream, and I saw a faucet build this big giant drip of water, and it would build and build and build until it finally would break and drop on me. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. The 3rd drip, I knew if it touched me, I would die. And so I would always wake up screaming right before that 3rd drip would fall on me. I still had that pervading sense of not belonging because I wasn't like the other kids. I didn't feel accepted at home, and I felt strange at school. At age 9, I was so sick that I was pronounced dead in our local hospital from one of my mysterious illnesses. My mother and maternal grandmother were arguing out in the hall after I was brought back to life. And the result of that argument was that my Grammy came in the room and told me, "The reason you're so sick is that your mother tried 3 times to have you aborted." And unfortunately, at age 9, aborted is not a vocabulary word you commonly have. I didn't understand what the word abort meant. So I didn't understand the connection between that and the mysterious illnesses. It would be a few more years before I really got that. Bringing my own child into the world really brought things full circle for me. I remember calling my mom for the first time in many years when I was 21 years old and I was getting ready to deliver my oldest child. I said, "I don't understand why you've done the things you've done. I don't understand why you've made the choices that you've made, but I forgive you. You don't owe me anything." Silence on both sides of the phone as the gravity of that hung in the air. But for the first time in my entire life, I started to have a sense of a little bit of connection with her. And it was the beginning of us healing our relationship. It was the beginning of me starting to accept myself and my family. And it was the end of that nightmare. I never had the dream of the water drops going to fall on me ever again. I would still feel alone as an abortion survivor for quite some time. Even though I'd come to know the Lord in my early 20s and received a remarkable amount of healing, the loneliness, shame, and fear of rejection were quite difficult to overcome. Remember, I was 9 when I first found out I was a survivor, and nobody does talk about that. I've even had one of my own doctors tell me, "Oh, I see here it says on your medical record that you survived an abortion attempt or something, and that's not a real thing, so I'm going to take it off of there." Oh, no, buddy, you don't get to do that. I asked him if he'd do the same thing if I had a broken leg, and he didn't believe in broken legs. Crickets, go figure. Finally, at almost 47 years of age, the internet led me to the Abortion Survivors Network. And now I have the honor of not only knowing but working with survivors from all over the world. I have the honor of serving as the education coordinator, helping survivors craft their story, go out, and share in a variety of venues. While it's my highest honor to serve God and my tribe in this capacity, my underlying why is always to help each survivor to know that they belong here in our survivor family, that they matter, that their story matters. Every time a survivor goes out to speak, it's one more group of people who are educated, one more opportunity for other survivors to hear them speak and know that they are not alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.